So this video will conclude the fourth prompt for the homework. As you can see, the operation was now successful, right? It's not measuring its distance from these other waterways. It's only measuring its distance, as you can see, from that big mass we called the Chesapeake Bay highlighted in the middle. And it's only measuring out to 5 miles. So boom, we got what we need. We got our 5 miles from the Chesapeake Bay. You know, that's fantastic. I can drag Chesapeake Bay if I want on top of it by making the under one 0, and just maybe so it's a little bit easier to visualize. Now, theoretically, it's a large file. Oh dear. Holy mackerel. All right, so we're almost there. So we've essentially got our 5 miles here. Wonderful. Now we really just need to do a zonal statistics, right? Similar to what we did before. Within this 5-mile radius, right, that's essentially going to be our zone. And within that area, we're just trying to understand. And I'll drag prompt 2 back up. Give it a second to load. Holy mackerel. Very dangerous with how big these files are. I'll rename prompt 2 to remind ourselves. What was this? It was land that developed between 2001 and 2011. Right, I'll take this 0 here because it just means didn't meet our criteria and make it blank. And maybe I'll turn this to like a fluorescent green so we can really see it. Right, or maybe I'll have to pick like a dark black or something. Just something we can really see highlighted against the data underneath it. Right, so we can kind of see how our problem is going to get answered here, right? We can see there is some blank land that's clearly falling in this area. I just need to know how much of it, right? How big of an area, how large those pixel sizes are that fall within that area. So I would just return to the same kind of thing I did before. I just want to do a zonal statistic, right? My zone is going to be my distance from Chesapeake Bay. I'm good to go. So if I were to do zonal statistics as a table and I were to drag it in, do not finish this, right? I'm setting something up that's going to be wrong here. If you tried to run it without taking one extra step, it would crash, and I want to talk about why that's the case. So my zone, right, would be my distance, right? That's the kind of boundary that I want. Perfect. It's not going to let me do it. And that's wonderful. So that's been a change, I guess, to the most recent thing. They have to be an integer or a feature layer. So the point I was trying to make is the reason this isn't going to work, right? Imagine you could bring that in, or imagine you tried to. Remember that the way a zone works, right, it either wants some like demarcated vector, right? This is a zone, that's a zone, that's a zone. Or the zone wants a super clear raster value, like maybe there's a raster value of 1 or 2 or 3 or 4, and each of those represent a zone. Think about how many zones I would be creating here, right? Return to your pixel inspector real quick and highlight Chesapeake distance, and then just like run it. Look at all these unique individual values. I might have millions of zones. Each one would be doing a calculation, but that's not what I want. I don't care if you're half a foot or 2 feet or 15 feet or 30 feet or 500 feet or 10,000 feet from the Chesapeake Bay. I just care that you're less than 5 miles. That's what I want. Total within 5 miles. So you almost need to do like a second step. You need to come before. You almost need to like reclassify your distance. Almost saying to it like you want to just really create 2 values here. Or 1 break, really. 2 breaks. 1 break being 0, and the other being your major one. Right? Because things that are 0, that would be the actual Chesapeake Bay. I don't really want that. Let's factor that out and make it no data. And you just be a value of 1. I just want 1 zone. All the values together between 0 and 2,640 feet, or sorry, 26,400 feet. I'm going to give it an arbitrary value of 1 because simply what you mean is within 5 miles. That's what I'm creating. A nice, easy grid that shows me past 0 up to 5 miles, but nothing on either end of that. It doesn't show me the differentiation between the values. Nice and simple. There we are, the land that happens to be within 0 and 5 miles of the Chesapeake Bay. Now all I need to do is another one of those operations. So, what I have here is I have values that are 1, right? A value of 1 means essentially that your land that developed. If you're 0, it means that you didn't develop. So I could come in here and I could go to zonal statistics as a table. My zone is within 5 miles. Doesn't really need a zone field because it only has one value. Thing I want to mess with is the land between 2000 and 2001. Remember, the value of 1 equals that it developed, so what statistic might I want to do? Maybe I'll just do sum. Because that way, right, it doesn't look like it because I've turned the value of 0, which means didn't meet my criteria, to white. But I could remind myself that there's a lot of zeros there, right? I don't want them to be counted. I don't want them to be averaged. I don't want them mixing in. I literally just want, if you find a value and it's a 1, add it, right? Because 1 plus 0 is 0, and 0 plus 0 is 0. So the sum is only going to work for those values that are 1, right? Anywhere where it sees a pixel, that pixel has a value of 1, it's going to add it together. So it's going to tell me how many pixels. Right, I can open it up, and there we are. There happened to be precisely, oops, sorry, I had to go to sum. There happened to be, looks like 130,341 pixels. And if I wanted to turn that to a real number, remember, pixels is one way of thinking about it. But if I know my pixels are 30 meters by 30 meters, from way back in step 1, right, then I know they happen to be 900 square meters. So if I multiply that by that, I know my size happens to be 117,306,900,000 square meters that developed between 2001 and 2011. Leave it to you to finalize that and show it to me in a way that I can understand.